Hey Aniket, thanks a lot for doing this. I know we've done the AMA before, but this was also part of the plan. Really looking forward to this conversation. I've known you for a while, and super excited to deep dive into your journey since then. So Dave, maybe if you could start with, growing up, early days, where did you grow up? What were your influences? How did you like make the decision to, get into engineering? We overlapped at IIT Bombay, obviously. We were in the same wing. So can you talk us through that story and journey?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Aviral. First of all, thank you for having me. Really elated to be here. I think, I follow you on LinkedIn very diligently and excellent content. And, you talk about how India is shaping up. And it's my favorite topic to talk about as well. So personally speaking, Aviral, I joined IIT Bombay in 2008. And before that, I was a very good student, prolific student per se. But then I was always more interested in music, some amount of dance, etc. Other extracurricular activity used to interest me a lot. And my dad told me that, if you go to Bombay and maybe have IIT Bombay as a platform, you can then use that to, get great connections, a great network. And then, you would probably be able to, build your own connections to go into any field you want, any chosen field that you might have in your mind later after you graduated. And that is what happened. And engineering was not something that I was very, very good at personally, very honestly. So it was more out of compulsion than out of choice. But I'm very, very glad I took that path, because the kind of connections and friends that I built at IIT Bombay is something I would have not been able to do at any other place. So that I'm very, very thankful for. I'm very thankful to my alma mater for being able to get that. So I feel very humble after having walked through the doors or the corridors of IIT Bombay. There's so much talent out there. You feel, that whenever you feel that you are probably doing great in your life, you see people around you and you realize that, you're just getting started. So that was really, I think, the level-headedness and the humility that IIT Bombay brought to me is that I'm very, very thankful for. And the connections that I've cultivated there is something that's going to stay with me forever.
No, that's awesome. And I think, you dabbled a bit in the entrepreneurship cell in college. There were, if I recall correctly, and you ended up joining consulting. What was the thought process there? When did the, thinking about starting something up get incepted in your mind?
Yeah, actually, Aviral, to be very honest with you, I actually had not dabbled a lot into the ESL concept back in college, because I always used to think that, starting up was not my cup of tea, very honestly. I was always under the notion that going into research, getting a PhD was something that I would be more interested in. But as life went by, I realized that my people skills were very, very good. And I used to build connections in a jiffy. And, I realized that that is something that will stand by me no matter what, even years later. So that is, I think, the core motivation behind me starting up Avilan, because I joined consulting. I was there for around 6 months, and then thereby joined housing.com for a year. But one thing stayed constant: my ability to connect to people, my ability to empathize with them, realize what they're good at, what they're not good at, being able to understand their aspirations, their skills. I think that stayed constant. I think that's the reason why I realized that, hey, in 2013 or 2014, and as our prime minister kind of took oath, I realized that India is going to change in the next 10 years, and I want to be a part of it, no matter what. So I think with GST, the advent of, Make in India program, etc., there was super amount of excitement around me. And I just realized that, hey, this is the right time to start up, because I have a very good amount of people skills, and I probably should be a part of this huge entrepreneurship wave that's going to come in India. These were the two main reasons, I would say.
Got it. And so you were at housing. When did the idea of Bizongo start in your head?
Yeah, absolutely, Aviral. So what happened really, is as we were building housing and I was a business intelligence analyst there, it was a great experience. But on the back of my mind, I was always thinking that, hey, there are so many hyper-local grocery players, food cloud kitchens getting built, but where is the thought around Indian B2B commerce? No one is thinking SME first. Everyone is thinking about the retail consumer, about consumer internet, right? And then I kind of stumbled upon India Mart and Trade India and realized that they were very lead gen sort of platforms. Leads getting generated from point A, getting traveling to point B, and there is really the platform is not really full stack in nature, no logistics, no payments, nothing. And then that is what struck me the most of it. I realized that India is probably in the dire need of its own Alibaba. And that struck me very hard. I realized that if that is the case, then why not, take the hard path. And I was ready to kind of stay at it for the next 10, 20 years. Time was not the problem. And since that was the case, I realized that, hey, me and my colleague, not my colleague rather, but my very, very close friend, Sachin Agarwal. So we sat down at the neighborhood Starbucks, spent umpteen amount of hours talking about how India's B2B sector is going to change, and we want to be a part of it.
Understand. And can you talk a little bit about how the team came through? Where did you guys meet? I know you're all from college, and I think same wing. I don't remember exactly, but very close in college as well. So how did you meet? When did you start brainstorming on the idea? How did the team come together? I think a lot of founders want to understand the team building, splitting of roles, how to create the initial founding team.
Yeah, absolutely. So Aviral, for us, it was always about people first, because one thing I was very sure of, that the idea might not be sacrosanct, but what I'm assured of is the fact that I want to start up with Sachin. That was very, very sure, because our fundamentals used to match a lot. He was from Hostel 5, I was from Hostel 4 from your wing itself. But the fundamentals used to match a lot. He was a very people-centric guy as well, very empathetic, very, very high amount of conviction in India's macro development, very high amount of conviction in the fact that India is going to change in the next 10 years. So those things used to match a lot. Aviral, me and Sachin used to catch up every day, PM to 1 a.m. at our neighborhood Powai Starbucks. We used to start at after our hectic day at work used to be over, and we used to talk for 3 hours and brainstorm every single day without fail. And weekends used to be obviously much more amount of brainstorming. So that was a fascinating experience, and this was, I'm talking about October 2014. So October to December 2014, we completely chalked out our charter of becoming a part of India's B2B e-commerce landscape. And through this, through the conversations for the first odd month or so, we realized that we would need a tech co-founder. And that is when, we chanced upon meeting Saurav. Saurav was a very, very good close friend of mine, and from IIT Delhi. And he introduced me to Ankit. And Ankit, it was a match made in heaven for us. We called him up, in a span of 20 minutes, he agreed to the concept that we were building upon. Only concept we had at that point of time, full stack, right? And he immediately agreed upon the idea, and we started building Bizongo from December 2014 onwards.
Thank you for that insight. So now it's a good time to dive into our topic and talk a bit about what exactly you guys are doing at Bizongo. The topic for this week's episode is, of course, digitizing India's supply chain. So can you maybe help us get started by telling us what problem you guys were solving exactly? I mean, you had this idea, you were kind of brainstorming about how you're going to contribute to this growth in the B2B e-commerce space. Where did you guys start, and how did you get your first customer?
Yeah, Mazin, thanks for that. Initially, I think, we chanced upon building something for the chemicals industry, right? And the reason we did that was because we were in Bombay. Bombay, Gujarat were in close proximity to each other. The chemical industry was blooming. And we realized that, hey, why not build a full stack platform for a chemical sort of a marketplace? We built that for chemicals and polymers for the first 6-7 months. And our first customer was roughly around May 2015. I vividly remember that. And, it was procurement of some amount of polymer granules. The trade sizes, the average order value were very, very high. But Mazin, it was a very working capital intensive business. In chemicals and polymers, right? And we realized that the only way to scale in chemicals, polymers would essentially be to deploy more and more amount of working capital and really, thereby scale the GMV, and it's going to be a GMV rat race, which we did not want to be a part of. And that's where Mazin back in 2016, at the start of 2016, at the onset of 2016, all of our founders, all three of us actually sat down and we chartered the growth path for the next 2-3 years. And we realized that, hey, we don't want to be a part of the GMV rat race. And that's when we built this beautiful segmentation of the B2B landscape in India of commodities, branded products, and unbranded products.
Okay.
These were the three segments. Under commodities, you would have all metal, cement,
Right.
chemicals, polymers, etc. All raw materials, right? All raw materials under the brand, right? And we realized that, there is so much amount of supply side fragmentation in the unbranded territory that it automatically makes much more sense because the margin structure is way higher. Right? And that was the key. That was the essence. That was the decision maker for us to go ahead and really lap on to the the unbranded charter, the unbranded territory. And we started off building a packaging marketplace in 2016.
So help me understand that transition a bit more, because I think it's really interesting. And so the first transaction that you did, right? You said it was working capital intensive. Did you guys put up the working capital yourselves, or how did you actually do that first transaction? And then packaging, you kind of mentioned that that's the area you focus on, but how did you realize that packaging was the area to focus? Like, how did you make that transition?
Sure. Initially, really, Mazin, the work capital was being put up by us, and thankfully, Axel became our first institutional investor in 16. Sorry, later part of 2015. That's when we raised our seed round from Axel, and that was a very sort of a growth cusp for us. And we realized that we could probably have used that money to go into the GMV rat race of becoming another large company in chemical and polymers, but that did not seem like the the right thing to do. Rather, focusing on packaging seemed better because there were 30,000 plus SMEs manufacturing packaging at any given point of time in India, right? 30 to 40,000 plus. There is concept of designing value-added services, development, change of materials, packaging development, product development. So there were so many parameters at play here, which we thought could be very interesting in terms of building additional margin levers, and we could easily become a more profitable company and a sustainable company. And that's where the idea really struck, Mazin.
And it sounds like profitability was a theme really early on. It's something you guys were thinking about. Is that?
Yeah, absolutely yes. So we got into the mindset of being a profitable company very early on, because we were not very comfortable with this huge cash burn we would see all around us, and we knew that ultimately business fundamentals say that a good company, you see the Zerozas of the world really making a killing out there. It's a money making machine. And we realized that ultimately a business fundamental should be that they should be able to churn cash and churn a lot of profits. And we were very, very finicky about that at the early onset itself.
And how did you kind of make this part of your company's culture? How did you make sure that everyone else was also finicky about profitability? Is that?
I think we are very, very high touch in terms of communication with our people, Mazin. As of today, let's talk about the present now, because I think we've dabbled a bit into the past. Talking about the present, Mazin, we have 250 employees generating $650 million in revenue, right? And actually more than $650 million. And we are doing that basis the fact that, we are very asset light. Our model is very technologically intensive. So, we have more and more folks in our tech and product team versus being a part of the ops team. We have our revenue generation per employee is best in the standard in the industry. So we were very, very excited by these themes, and and realized that as we talk in our company town halls, as we talk in our all hand meetings, as we talk in our function meetings, etc., we used to always talk about the fact that how our revenue generation per employee and profit per employee is very high. And we turned EBITDA profitable in September last year, and has been soaring. The EBITDA profitability charter has been soaring since then. And we only want to probably, our EBITDA right now stands at anywhere between 0.7 to 1% as of today. And we want to become a 5% EBITDA company in steady state. That's the ambition.
So I think it's fascinating. But the targets and the numbers that you talk about in the company is what creates that culture and kind of motivates everyone to work towards the same goal, which is just amazing. But let's talk a little bit more about macro level. I mean, you guys, went to packaging and then realized that there was a niche there and then you can add more and more value-added services. And then I believe since then you've also pivoted outside of chemicals and you're doing other industries as well. Can you tell us a bit about that transition and where do you see it going from here? What's next?
Yeah, as of today, when we operated in the packaging segment for quite some time, Mazin, and after operating in the packaging segment for 3-4 years, we realized that now to get to the next level of scaling in terms of profits, EBITDA, as well as revenue growth share, we needed to probably look more at a tech stack, right? And that is where we built the digitization of supply chain story, where we now have a platform which is focused on digital vendor management. So we are not an alternate source of supply. I think that's very, very worth or useful mentioning, Mazin, that we are not a source of supply. We don't go to the customer and say that, hey, I can give you a better product at a better price. We just go to the customer and say that, hey, you get all your vendors hooked onto the Bizongo platform. You also come onto the Bizongo platform. You will get all purchase orders, invoices, documentations, PODs, acknowledgement, payment advices, all on the platform itself in a very seamless way. So your supply chain becomes much more visible. It becomes much more intuitive, and you don't need to change supply per se. So that is where Mazin, I've seen that the requirement of a high amount of people in the value chain, high manual touch in the value chain reduces. Our platform has become more and more self-serve with time, and that is what has also caused the profits to rise and the EBITDA to rise, and that is where I think a lot of the I actually expect the growth path to be very seamless in the next 4 years, next 4-5 years, where it's going to be highly focused on building more and more value-added services in the tech stack itself. There is a base platform, and the base platform is essentially encapsulated with vendor management solutions, supply chain optimization solutions, and financing solutions. These are the 3 hallmarks of our Bizongo platform.
All 3 baked into it. So, and then what's amazing about that, and you spoke about it, you talk about you're focused on full stack. But to me, what's amazing is by putting all of this together, you sort of have these network effects, right? You get one vendor on your platform, and then they will invite all the suppliers, and you sort of have this growing network effect. And so with that base of your platform, you can then add value-added services on top of it, which is incredible. Can you tell us a bit about how do you actually monitor this in terms of metric? How are you making sure that your platform is growing at the right rate? How do you think about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's actually one of the best questions that I've been asked very recently, because everyone kind of goes there and Mazin and asks me about the revenue growth and why and where have we seen that. But what is more exciting is even outside the revenue growth, we have actually seen a very high amount of digital adoption on the platform, which makes me even more ecstatic or more happy. As we saw a scaling of, so we were, by Jan of 2021, we were approximately at a revenue run rate of $54 million, right? And February 2022, to you, Mazin, we ended at $653 million. So it was a growth of approximately 12x in revenue, which is, it's been absolutely stellar. And we had actually released a sort of media article back in September, October 2021, talking about how we would probably try to end March 2022 at $300 million. But we have probably, we expect to cross March at more than $700 million as I talk to you today. So that's exciting. But what is more exciting, Mazin, is the fact that our platform adoption in terms of the growth in number of events, by our seller partners as well as the customers is actually 150x in 12 months. And the reason that has happened is because the model has become more and more self-serve in nature. The customers are saying that, hey, I don't need to call up Bizongo to understand where my PODs are. I don't need to call up Bizongo to understand where my consignment is at any given point of time. I can just log into the platform and see it myself. So why not do it? So I think that is where I think I've seen a lot of growth in terms of generation of number of events on the platform. And that is something I think, is kind of has overwhelmed us completely. And very excited to see where that goes in the course of the next few years.
Yeah, I mean, engagement is such an important metric for consumer platforms, but to look at it that way for a B2B platform is different, but also makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, people are using it more, it's stickier, they stay for longer, they recommend more people. What about customer acquisition? Can you explain to us how that works exactly? Is it, boots on the ground and having a sales team going out, or a bit of that and a little bit of digital acquisition as well? Curious how that works for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for example, I think we do a lot of trade shows and exhibitions. We're very active in that space. For example, there's a sugar and ethanol conference just tomorrow, at Saharastar, Mumbai, and I'm a panel speaker there. Very excited to probably, go for a lot of trade shows, go do a lot of lead marketing. We get a lot of customer leads from there. And the most important, source of our leads or customer acquisition is really word of mouth referrals. And why I say that is because, as you very rightly put forward, Mazin, in one of your questions itself, as we provide services to our customers, the customer recommends, his or her, a friend or probably someone else in the same industry to us. For example, we are doing a lot of work in the FMCG space, in the pharma space, in the consumer staples, consumer discretionary, these sort of industries. And we are seeing a lot of word of mouth reference there.
Hey, Aniket. And so I think I wanted to touch upon a topic that I think has become pretty important over the last quarter, at least for me personally. I don't know how many founders are talking about it, but we seem to be entering the end of a epic positive run in the startup ecosystem, in terms of funding, in terms of growth. How are you thinking about the next year, next couple of years? Is there going to be any change of strategy? What's going to be the focus for you guys going forward?
Yeah, absolutely, Aviral. I think from our perspective, really, I think we are one of the few players out there. I think I'm not being boastful when I say it, but one of the few players out there who are talking about sustainable margins. And the reason we are being able to do that is because with the 250-member team, Aviral, we still have the possibility or the propensity to be able to earn more margins because we are offering value-added services like bidding, like our cloud factory visibility through IoT devices. We recently acquired a company called Clean Slate Technology, where they actually provide through IoT sensors. They provide many different sort of insights to manufacturers to augment their throughput capacity. So we acquired that company, and we are very sure we'll be able to monetize these services to the platform itself. So more and more focus on bottom line, I would say, is really how the next few years are going to look like. And probably by the end of it all, if we see Bizongo emerge as a 10% margin company and a 5% EBITDA company, that would be nothing sort of super exciting.
Understand. And just to close out, we call our podcast Founders Unfiltered because we ask this piece of unfiltered advice that you've received in your journey. What's one piece of unfiltered feedback you received in your journey as an entrepreneur, or even before that, which changed the way you did things? Brutal, honest is best.
Yeah, absolutely. Aviral, thanks for asking this question. Yeah. So I think, what I really feel is most important is, I think one of your, I'm actually going to borrow a line from one of your posts, because I follow them very diligently. I think, you had actually mentioned that in life, you realize at some point of time that your social skills are much more important than your technical skills, right? You had written this, and that resonated with me very, very deeply. And, I'm a complete and an ardent people person, deal with my teammates. So for example, I would know, even the warehouse executive that we have on a first name basis, and I know what he or she is up to. So I think that is very, very critical. But one feedback I remember which resonated with me very, very deeply was when one colleague of mine ended up telling me that, whenever you want to give feedback to someone, criticize that person. First, mention certain positive things about that person to soften the blow, essentially, right? Mention certain positive things, mention what he or she is really good at, how he or she is adding value to the company, then go ahead and criticize that person. If you start rambling about how he or she is not up to the mark in a certain aspect, they are bound to retaliate, right? So I think, this has served me extremely well. I use that on a daily basis with my teammates, my reportees, my subordinates, my peers, my co-founders, everyone, and that serves me very, very well.
Got it. Awesome. Thank you, Aniket, for sharing that. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Really enjoyed this episode.